Hello, everybody. It's Wolf Johnson back again. I've been receiving a few questions to my email, theclashthechaos@gmail.com, which is fantastic. That's what it's there for. I'll add it in the description if you'd like to send questions as well. Many of you follow my Substack, my poetry publication website, where I post various poems or literary things. So right now we're putting up a manuscript that I had previously posted for a reason. I had to switch platforms to create a new Substack, and so I'm just reposting it there. But if that's something you're interested in reading, I recommend checking it out. I'll add that link in the description as well. I have been asked how I write, and it's a really big question because writing is just an expression. So how do you express? That's basically the question that I hear when somebody asks that. How do I express? Well, however I feel. So there's a couple things to consider. Danielle had asked from the Discord. By the way, if you would like in the Discord, I don't promote the link, but I can provide it to you if you would like access. I would love to have you there. We talk about art, sex, and feelings, basically. So Danielle had asked the format of my poems. So if you go to my Substack, you'll find some of the poems I've been writing recently. I've been doing a really very intentional visual format to these things, laying them out in such a way that creates a little bit of an abrasive experience as you're reading it. And the reason for this is it is highly intentional. Danielle had to ask if this is something that I consider when I'm writing the poem. So yes and no. It really comes down to the specific poem. How I write is how I feel. And it's very much about feel. It is very much about just pulling that pen out and having a piece of paper and just feeling it physically how my wrist and the pen connects with the page. There's something to that feels as though I'm accurately translating a feel into something tangible, something that has a representation of the same thing symbolically. And so that is through language that tends to be words, but it can also be shapes or the aggression behind each stroke of each letter. It can be all caps. It can be a mess. It can be chaotic writing. All of these things are a result of a true, honest expression that I'm trying to just get out of me. So I don't sit down and write intellectually. I don't do that for poetry or prose that I'm doing. It is never like an intellectual process. It is always just feel. And it's important for me that I maintain that. So I have pages that are just one word, capitals, just scratched across the page, taking up the whole page. And that might be a part of a poem. So when I'm translating these things to a digital realm that you can actually read as like a body of text, you don't always get that same experience upon reading it as you would within the book, within my notebook. So because I feel like that is an important part of the expression, this way that not only the words, what they represent, but how they have been laid to be represented, I think is incredibly important. So I try to think of a new way, and it's not thought. It too is feel. I try to feel it out when I'm laying these words out to be in a format that can be read on a screen or on your phone. I'm primarily formatting for desktop viewing. So if you look at the poems on my Substack on a computer or a tablet, for example, they're going to structure differently than if they're on a phone. Most likely, it depends on the poem, just because the spacing available. And so if there's limited resolution on your mobile device, you start creating like space page breaks between each line. And that's not always intentional, but sometimes I like the result of that. But so what I do is to create a visual experience as well, is to break lines down that it may be like 10 words in a line. And I might turn that into a stanza unto itself, just 10 words. And the thought of this comes not only from how it looks, but also how it reads and how I would read it. because there is a cadence, a natural cadence when you're reading something. And this is something that they used to do with the old, like romantic era poetry. They would add dashes or hyphens or spaces to account for, say, a beat in a poem. So I'm using that philosophy to some extent, and I'm layering that on top of the idea that not only can that serve as a functional aspect to a poem, but also that it can actually itself be a part of the experience in terms of your visual consumption of these things, not only as words that relay ideas as symbols, but that the experience of it can almost be like a puzzle to some degree. So I hope that offers some explanation on how I write poems, Danielle. In terms of how I go about my day in writing, like how do I get in that mindset? It's pretty straightforward all the time. I have to start the day with exercise, and I have to be outside. I have to get outside. So the best way for me to do that is go for a run. So I'll get up at, like, ideally, it's not always the case, less so lately, as I've been up at all hours, just having deep conversations with certain people. Ideally, I'm awake by 5:30 a.m. and I'll be out and I'll go for a run. And it may be an hour, maybe 2 hours. And it's not constant running that whole time. It'll be like running and then pace myself to a walk, but it's constantly moving with the overall object to be running and get that cardio in. But as well, in doing that practice, I'm getting the fresh air. I'm also losing myself in the world, which is an input unto itself, because I could sit in a library or in my office and nothing changes about that environment. Even a cafe has things that are changing. There's dynamic things constantly creating new combinations of input in your mind, whether it's other patrons or just these this orchestra of ambience that happens at a place of business, like diners, eateries, the clinks of spoons and dishes and cutlery and all that stuff, the sound of people in the kitchen, the ambient banter, all of this stuff. It's new information as it comes in. Whereas in say my office here, I can adorn the walls and all the decor, all the inspirational images that I like, and it can be a pleasant place for me to remain idle. But there is a stagnant state of mind here because there's nothing new happening. So if I'm in an office space, I need to have music. I need to have, and primarily it's not something that's overly intrusive. I like things without lyrics when I'm writing, and it's something that is relatively stable in terms of its pacing and rhythm. Nils Fram, I think that's how you say his name, or it's Niles Fram. He has a great collection of tracks. He's an instrumentalist that gets me in the zone. It draws me in. It's ethereal enough. It is immersive enough. There's not too many changes, and they're long pieces of music that invite you in. And in doing that, it simulates to me to some degree, not physically, but mentally and perhaps spiritually, the practice of going for a walk or going for a jog or sitting in a cafe, but it's moving, it's alive, it is life. So yeah, I need activity in the morning. I need to fresh input in my brain, fresh air, the light of day, the ambience of nature, sunlight, or even the moonlight if I'm early enough. The breeze. I gotta get my heart up. And yeah, I have to get started right away. If I linger and wait until, say, lunchtime, I'm not getting any work done that day. So yeah, that's how I write. I hope that answers the question. And thank you for asking. And yeah, I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you for your support, and we'll catch you later. Peace.